Rabia, you good?
Give me 1 second.
Gordon,
Yep.
good. The advantages and stability for security limit are on his defensive but expensive US presence provokes prolific escalatory war. Robinson 416. Security limit will support ideas and higher even investigate capability will inevitably contain offensive security can be perceived as threatening the other side will take countermeasures if vicious act will lead to wars. OVS mistook NATO exercise leading to near Krauss Iran would want a new for blocking attack. There's no evidence around as a different motive and plenty of reason for Iran to fear attack. President Reason stated all options on the table. Iran uses Scott seriously cyber attacks agents and assassinated scientists when Iran responds rationally. Its actions are seen as further aggression. Iran has launched drones to Iran doesn't want a war but the cycle of violence can easily escalate. And Prolif triggers a cascade of arms racing extinction, Libby 22. If Iran gets nukes on Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, and others will arm a worldwide ever absent decision on making continental distance to stay less launch on warning in the hands of technically challenged militaries that include air settlements escalating to nuclear war and lose nukes. And independently timed is high now, only withdrawals of miscalculation and quick escalation, London Hall 419. Israel's retaliatory attack came despite Biden's warning zero was only tipped off at the last minute. Missiles could cause Americans on a hard move. Unprecedented Iranian attack to arrive elements of U.S. sovereignty and Gaza the Middle East is on the brink, basing and devastating full so confidence now is the time to defuse and de-escalate U.S. troops. Heavy hundreds of attacks from Iranian parts and U.S. also targeting Americans. Our real goods are much harder when it comes to where does the conflict end, where the major warrior on charge of territory. This is a sort of unprecedented strike. And second is adventurous. We need to dispose of expensive presence produces threat to justify itself. Grand Journey path dependencies of policy and nurture. Pillar right now 2020. Presence is self-perpetuating bureaucratic inertia justified in terms of force protection is circular as long as forces available to make the fine nails and American presence cause a real U.S. involved with someone duly repeated on intense strategically and significant space instability as a result of involvement in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Syria, Yemen requires state and draw double to royalty precluding regional domination. U.S. signal clearly its commitment to significantly reducing its military presence. Otherwise, countries will be sent out incentivized to stabilize to prevent drawdown. U.S. cannot wait must engage with partners to discuss down for withdrawal and continuing relations in 5 to 10 years of diplomatic engagements for new regional security. And distrust their current presence creates a breach culture of militarism and guarantees endless war. Black and Porter 21. Coarsening politics, extenuating xenophobic populism, support for Trump, permanent wars becoming institutionalized, secret sites, torture, assassinations, exacerbated inequality, and social strength campaigns, further regulatory and effective for in place, executive the expense of Congress that makes military over dominant areas debate revolving towards an enable and manifestation of policy, militarization to come home, and the ones surveillance and police, racial divide, Trump, conflated terrorism, immigration, and Islam, and Middle East war goes global and nuclear please in 2020. Iran about revenge, Middle East conflicts violent to World War III strikes with terror, terrified Syria, strong in Russia, China, ships and global one carry out naval drill, build Russia, Iran, and Russia. They could become involved in war. Troops are deployed in northern Syria, making its actions unpredictable. U.S., China, Russia, and Israel all nukes with expansion, hypersonic to an end to nuclear exchange. And independently, the U.S. is dangerously overstretched outside presence prevents countering Russia and China and fuels political backlash to make total withdrawal inevitable. Corruption 22. Main strategic areas been underlined serving Portland in the Middle East, oil containing Iran, nukes, countering terrorists can be through diplomacy, surgical operations, isolations, combat ones, schools in Arkansas and Afghanistan, completion, turnover, reaching down, reform, withdrawal from essential commitments in Europe and East Asia, withdrawing withdrawing from NATO and Japan and Europe and Asia, withdrawal with unsettled allies and bold adversaries, and fighting out operations. That's why I believe as Americans, global guardians should remain great power, pacify, stabilizing Europe and Asia, catalyst for collective action, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, making clear that anything that's out of the presence of Europe is needed to trigger Kremlin, American troops and anti-came from Europe, will stretching challenge will be Chinese towards stability and shared leadership. And it's not just a question of repositioning resources about limited bandwidth and divided focus. Logan 2-6. Middle East regularly such auction out of the Beltway contrasts with Ukraine by 5 to 6 already outstripped 4 to Ukraine militia killed 3 troops in Jordan. Biden is facing substantial escalation at the expense of every other HC administration dropped on Ukraine like a hot rock immediately shifted its attention its arms away. Middle East absorb arms attention diplomatic cover will define core preferences in the Middle East comprises of 1.2% of world GDP. No state can project power outside the region. And everyone knows that ever expanding U.S. presence is unsustainable. The world is preparing for complete abandonment. Holy 23. Leaders with pulling out, talking on not decided with Biden widespread perception that withdrawal is in the works. Afghanistan is so widely even believe narrative that the U.S. is abandoning trade to pivot to Asia, America for shorter rhetoric, reality, U.S. actually increasing its footprint. And China and Russia are largest threats, absent incredible deterrent, catastrophic miscalculations, inevitable. Gates 23. The U.S. confronts greater threats than ever. The four allied antagonists, Russia, China, no go around a nuke arsenal could double its own events and demand to go hard response. The country cannot provide to one. Xi and Putin convinced the U.S. could enter a reversible plan. Evident China, Russia's military strength and aggressiveness. Many leaders made major miscalculations. Seem like they make even bigger Washington there. Change calculus, reduce change to disaster. U.S. finds itself incapable of strength necessary to sway them. Deterring depends on certainty and constancy. Dysfunction made around your American power, erratic and reliable, unproviding respond after against the nature and with catastrophic effects. And great power war turns every other scenario and causes extinction. Claire 23. Nukes proliferate. Also, World War III are high grade power to make races to develop weapons. Existential catastrophe could escalate dramatically with nukes, weapons, AWs on unprecedented scale. Nukes entry accelerate climate change, undermine international institutions, China, U.S. religion, deteriorating protections policies, reduce interdependence, invasion, Ukraine, nuclear war, tensions, make biotech, neglect safety, great power relations, influence collective action, and excellent plan. The United States ought to substantially reduce the military presence in the area of responsibility of Central Command in the West Eastern North Africa region. Smaller presence strengthens deterrence and tempers adventures without completely abandoning the region. McBride 23. Rather than reassurance, President Consol resentment, alien knowledge, labor violation, criminal conduct, violations, sovereignty, governance, diplomatic relations, non-decided president, denied to goals of quick war, obstacles, avoiding intervention, more modest posture, underwrite greater restraint, for debating advocates will call for abandonment, but drawback will allow realignment to matter better to match threats. And reducing presence alone solves the advantage, but would also lead to a shift to distributed basing. Joyce and Walter 21. And it sets goals for right-sizing presence, fewer forces, enhanced deterrence, U.S. officials strength, need to raise fear, raising a level of consolidation, dispersal, use all ways outside of Russia, wings alive, new operational concepts, reducing regional presence. And That solves all neg offense. Distributed basing makes the most of reduced force. Also 21. Present need not be permanent. Set of major operating bases rates to distributed basing a constellation of smaller bases to host radiation shift installation deemed non-essential for auto war return bases host nations but should be reduced preposition equipment for contingency limited intelligence or counter terror remain. And shifting from currently aggressive posture distributed basing necessitates a smaller footprint. Choice of blanket shift 21. Dispersed basing would make it force and difficult to find cost domain and not require distributed logistics network to be united to partners election and build a large coalition increase operational crisis access to facilities and more places more bases better served by fewer physically armed facilities rather than huge concentration of flexible arrangement with smaller presence to surcharge smaller presence and reduce the cost of funds and manpower. And the next one framework. This standard is maximize expectable being for utils of partial specific public actors results in infinite regrets explains all value. Green 2015. Utils misunderstood by after I got tried to devise based on different results on each other with a common metric usual part reality. It's such a decision makers regard everything individual matters for everybody else. The answer is quality constitution experience. Say why do you care? You come down to the quality exchange of say what to go to work. Say I need money to place to live to sleep. It's quarter to the pattern to the register paying the server resolving public security experience. And skip the next card. Biological death is ontologically bad. Patterson 2003. Death is the objective evil. Ontological choice is subject invented better or worse life. Rejection of blood cannot be warranted. The president of radical ontological theory cannot be get away objectively. And using the government as a competitor high forces to truly investigate political structure, search for ways to improve instead of using abstract solutions to concrete impacts. Naughty 2013. Resistant and limited to rejection struggles within government rationalizing opinion transforming and question over simplification nurtures radical skepticism abstract solutions political problems with no complex diagnosis political engagement when not waiting the evolution trade power by playing with what our cards are available and would require relative depending on the consequence of political choices. I didn't read the second green card. I'm ready for Krauss. Wait, sorry, let me just grab some water. Okay, I'm good.
Right sizing, what does it mean? How does what do bases look like post-plan?
Yeah, that's explained really well under a plan section. Just to be clear, distributed basing is not a fiat mandate of a plan, nor is it necessary to solve any of the affirmative advantages. But we argue that it's better for a few reasons. One is that the law talks about fewer smaller bases that are...
Wait, so in a scenario of a conflict, could the U.S. re-intervene in those bases to protect allies?
First of all, we allow for the ability to surge, but we would argue based on our security...
So the plan does allow for the ability to surge.
But we would argue that based on our security dilemma argument that there would be no need to surge post-plan because we solve for the root cause of conflict since U.S. military presence is what's provoking nations into a conflict.
Your evidence says that Israel, etc., would be reassured by the plan's right sizing. How does that process happen?
What do you mean?
Like, how does the plan reassure allies like Israel?
Oh, well, we would argue that distributed basing is better for our allies for a number of reasons. I can explain that if you want.
That's what the question was.
Okay, cool. So distributed basing basically has it so that we have fewer bases, and there would be more distributed throughout the region. Because if we get rid of bases and we make those remaining bases smaller,
so we keep remaining bases in our ally, with our allies.
Not all of them, obviously. The point is that
which allies do we not keep bases with?
Yeah, so we talk about specifically how we would reduce our military presence within the area of responsibility of CENTCOM. You can read normal means evidence for what you think that would look like.
Sure. The Latin Hall evidence says that Israel's attack came despite Biden's warnings. If that is true and Israel views Iran as an existential threat, why would they back down post-plan?
Yeah, our Latin Hall card is really good on this. It specifically argues that Israel is basically we can't rein them in with any leverage that we have. So having a military presence there that we can condition doesn't do anything to stop Israel because Israel
that's not reverse causal. That just means we can't solve it now. Why does the plan change that?
B is that our Latin Hall card is really good on this. Specifically at the end, it talks about how the fact is that there's only the chance of a major nuclear war breaking out, and it says the
U.S. has done nothing to stop, and U.S. leverage does nothing to stop Israel. If that is true, how can the plan possibly stop Israel from attacking
So the
Iran?
point is that U.S. leverage, i.e. our military presence in one, is not doing anything to restrain Israel.
I understand that. That doesn't mean the plan resolves that.
The solvency argument that I'm making is at the bottom of the card, not the top of the card, in which it argues that the only scenario for great power drawn and this conflict going nuclear is if U.S. troops are in the region and
Israel has... Okay, so the scenario is that Middle East war does not go nuclear absent intervention from other great powers.
Absent intervention from the U.S. specifically.
Wait, why? Israel has nukes themselves.
Well, yeah, that's explained really well though in our Latin Hall 419 card, in which it talks about how a conflict would remain contained because Iran obviously doesn't have nuclear weapons in the status quo.
Wait, where does it say a conflict will be contained?
Yeah, the Latin Hall card is really good on this. It specifically talks about how...
Why does Iran need nukes if Israel has the nukes? You only need one country to have nukes to have a nuclear.
Yeah, but the war won't go nuclear if they don't have it. They don't fear a nuclear strike. It'll remain conventional, as proven by centuries of conflict. A. B is that our card is really specific and talking about how the concern becomes only concrete when there are U.S. troops
about
in
our
the
current
region.
posture?
That it's super over-sprawling and large and making Iran mad.
Okay, I'll send the doc. It's one framing case.
Cool. I'll let you know when I get it. Cool. I'm good.
Is everyone good? Settler femicide is structural attack against democracy, the elimination of native life, and the dispossession of land. This dispossession is borne by living dead native women who are rendered structural because they state about the possibility of native future. Simpson, 16 neoliberal governments require sad relations to for fixed violence rather than care citizens best to do bodies are cheaply and willingly one more attainable because they're both AD bodies and AD women's bodies saved by land reproducing into life and other political orders, native women's bodies to decide like land because she was naturally based out from AD women disappearance because this dispossession is borne by corruption and native women their bodies have been right to less all big places that represent indigenous governance. They suffer distortion of the lives shorted their power, poor, less educated, sicker, and disparate language should not be constellations since historical balance of colonialism is ongoing. This is the structural logic of genocide. Settler states cannot exist without the prior elimination of indigenous life and land to secure a claim to legitimacy. Tucking Yang. In 12, the Silicon Nation of agricultural liberation of life, land, intelligence, land, social capital, disruption of additional relations, land, represents epicenter, models, research, HA population, Siliconism is a structure non-bannable, also force which shall seek to become the poverty, decolonization, metaphors, equally contrary to decolonized because the term decolonization and symbolic failed by treacherous liberation, decolonization, must involve the repatriation of land. The 186 pursuit of the ideal American military strategy to protect alliances and countries across the world is the smokescreen for settler imperialism. They can only cure itself through the fungibility of native flesh, saying in 19, U.S. globalism imperialism and essential settler freedom charting lands for research, dispatch, to defend the free world settler, balance the name of freedom yield, carceral series, settler practices, real liberal citizens, subordinate subject defined by democratic claims of the nation, the latter, this disappearance for elimination of bad fear status, has been functional council house with fears the native field, the race of native, is elimination is condition of freedom, think of democratic self-rule expansive, and of course will over subject to deprivation, freedom, this happens, a final plan, the challenges about doing settler ethics and never higher, freedom must be built upon elimination. Alliances are not neutral but formed through the whitewashing of imperial empire in favor of disciplining the non-west. This logic is baked into every part of the 1EC. Murray in 20 empires and every part of the nations. The independence was gifted by white men's battle after liberal subject other considered Russia, China, NATO, or ASEAN. I regard the imperial nation which continues to accession continues to globalize the wants to still the universal with the non-west granted tolerance as long as it adhered to discipline. Every facet of our foreign policy is indebted to settler colonialism. The as foundational assumptions are complicit in the destruction of native life and governance. King 17 in our days philosophies and marginalizing categorized domestic foreign policy crafted around council to policy in the international where states compete against each other. What about communities that now resemble state our custody people of hard distinctions that have lands and for close about the researching communities. The logic of elimination makes extinction inevitable. Only the alternative souls for restoring indigenous governance would sustain life over millennia. Mitchell 17 settler colonialism and extractive entities convert to extinction. The dissolution of social bonds involves indigenous laws and that sustain worlds over millennia interferes with practicing here for the land necessary for the survival of life forms. The responsibility extinction that leaves social bonds to time necessary to destruction of extinction also decolonization to return land and power back to indigenous people. Thus the only alternative is decolonization that requires an abolition of settler nation states and an unwavering commitment to indigenous sovereignty, futurity, Tucking Yang. In 12, an ethnic incompatibility sense of conscious reconciliation which motivates elimination and reconciliation back to settler normalcy of attracting settler future consider questions of what will decolonization look like, what will be the consequences for settler incompatibility and not be integrated colonization to exist as primary colonization not of and not capitalist settlers to self future decolonization capitalism for this sovereignty future it'll go find the answers as we get their decolonization on and also the role of the ballot is to embody black and native feminist refusal. You should be skeptical of their offensive settler futurity which can only ever perpetuate a world whereby white patriarchal and racist metaphysics. King 17 native feminist refusal black feminist emphasis for distrust and amnesty towards overrepresentations community as nothing practice make community massive humanist public theory within terms of debate did not play by the rules of particular manner which black and native feminists push back against balance support the reading of black women who distrustful about traditional tropes about thinking what's normal the limitation western liberal thought that is that it cannot see itself a general practice making western doctrine back on self settler colonial knowledge what this does question the Ontario assumptions that exposes particulars of the meta narrative. Our interpretation is that the judge ought to evaluate the opposite research product they don't get away the material implication of the case. One, plan focus resist to a debate to intense like a statement to leave the rest of the app unquestioned, hold them responsible for how the knowledge is constructed and used because that produced the best model for activism and ethics. Two, the case or prior question influence the value of the game. If we win that debate train students to be valid outside of the rounds that comes first. Three, performance data. You're an educator responsible for judging the behavior and scholarly production of the app. That means you should drop them if we win a link because it proves the investments were unethical. Four, debate is a side of scholarship production, not policy making one-on-one. Even if individual bias do not change your subjectivities, iterative investments in research models influence our political orientations, rejecting paradigms, premise on settlerism and pedagogical spaces, access to starting point for decolonization. Five, vote negative presumption. Fiat is elusive. The app does nothing. Voting app won't produce the advantages discussed, but arguments about how we view policies and debates. Six, the political procedural fairness and clashness always face cause internalization of genocide. Stanley 21 technology, dangerous genocide, insufficient solidarity. And the alternatives internalism on non-native communities, the internal colonialism, self-appointed established procedures that uphold the nature, self-future, and self-ideals are better than policies in every space. Indigenous people are pressured to conform to settler culture in order to gain legitimacy of civilized state or settle across the position. Peoples in the past most settler colonies or to perpetuate framing. The one, the double bind. Either their present true annexation is not one, in which case they can't solve anything since the app does not pass without any vote negative presumption. Two, futurity. DA settler society requires the elimination of genocide of native women to career itself, which means that their extinction outweighs arguments only recognize native death. When framing the concept of the death of white settlers, the world the app tries to save is not one worth saving. Zanati is wrong. If we want ontology, it's unethical to use the government as a heuristic. The case Krauss makes it clear they don't remove presence, they merely redistribute it within West Asia, shift to East Asia. That makes every app defense inevitable by exacerbating the same tensions without adversaries causing backlash, but in a different theater. It proves that the gate controls the root causable sidelines from the 1EC to prove our links. One, 1EC joins the blanket called to quote deepen ties with partners and build a large-scale coalition, and how quote U.S. force posture is better served by fewer physically hardened facilities rather than concentration, which proves that the purpose of the app is to enhance American force posture and military authority. Two, 1EC McBride says the status quo quote risk-making allies complacent, content to free ride off the United States, which shows that the blame U.S. allies for free riding off U.S. support. Three, the fear of Iran and Russia to justify expanded American deterrence. Settler colonialism normalized the doctrines of white superiority, which are the root cause of global militarism and endless conflict and racial violence across the globe. Their investment in a U.S.-led order turns the case last drove in 15 modern development make evident the need to delay for coloniality relations prevent the law that facilitates anti-colonial recognize the right to have a history of colonization with normal balance of war, exploitation, race, relations, racial narratives, rooted in white superiority, manifestation, Western policy, hold anything outside the matter of the Western modernity as the side humanity. Settler colonialism is considered geopolitics at global level. The U.S. source is the foundational architect for global violence, which is the alternative of prior question, Cornelia Griffiths. 16. SCS mercy attempt to think the global constituted relationship question of settlement, settler colonialism question considered geopolitics at global level for suppressing colonization, capitalism, governance. If settler colonialism is not the right power, international settler colonialism is considered global nation states founded on settler colonialism, considered first nation state, global reach of its imperial biological nation, America's imperial sense of looking the world, the more the majority, and liberalism of settler state, which has more indulgence in repression of indigenous existence. The logic of saving allies is linked. The desire to protect Israel while it's currently genociding Palestinians proves how only our analysis of settlerism can analyze the relations between settler nations in an ethical way. The plan cannot solve Israeli aggression. When I see Latin says the cause is structural, they view Iran as an existential threat to their survival. Conflict escalates because Israel has nukes. Robinson evidence gives a list of all causes to Iranian prolif sanctions, rhetoric, Israel assassinations. Even if Iran is defensive realist, the app does not solve the inside its prolif. Inserted it in green. They also cannot solve Middle Eastern war. Latin Hall says that Israel is not constrained by the U.S. and its increasing military attacks despite Biden's opposition. So reducing presence obviously does not solve. That was the entirety of crosslinks. Inserted below. Ignore the blended Porter index. A. All their impact cards equally the cultural militarism. B. Is their burden to read specific index of our defense. The overstretched scenario Afghanistan improved proves that withdrawal increases the risk of backlash because it makes U.S. presence look counterproductive, which decreases support for redeploying troops elsewhere. Nothing in the act makes a reverse causal claim that troops would be repositioned against China or Russia in Taiwan, even if the U.S. is overstretched. Now the burden is on them to win that troops would move. The Colley evidence does not say U.S. presence in the Middle East is unsustainable. This is that there's a perception that the U.S. would withdraw, but then proceeds to refute that perception because, especially if we win the claim, that proves that the U.S. has an incentive to stay in the Middle East, even post-plan, which means that they would use the possibility to circumvent it. Now, private contractors are not U.S. forces. The plan cannot solve them. We all 6 private employees would deploy with U.S. forces. The private military pressing operating communications state companies have doing business. Armed contractors in civil includes not belonging to U.S. military, but Virginia private contractors active to no one were outside the chain of command. That exacerbates every impact they've listed. They shift. Mazzetti 14. The CIA remains in charge after troops left the CIA is running program to archery and train rebels somewhat want to get CIA out of the Columbus, but that's not happening anytime soon. Turns the case terse into all the face of American war fightings once again changing funds and effort floods the militarization, flying intelligence use of drone aircraft launches, cyber attacks, and drone operations with civil agencies, foreigners, organizational virtual warfighting, which are not depending on use of force with the CIA, the state, and the DE, the very national war zones have become model bomber and the blowing missions of the CIA and depending on war making and setting up deep into the shadows.
Cool. Ready for Krauss?
Yeah.
Can the alt result in the app?
No.
Cool, so it's not a pick?
No.
Do you fiat it?
We've criticized the logic of fiat. We think that epistemic orientations and discourse come first.
Okay, what does your discourse in this round do?
It refuses the app's racism.
What does that do for to materially help indigenous people?
Well, we think that orienting away from the state is the only ethical option. If we win that claim, you vote nay.
Yeah, but does that actually materially do anything to help indigenous people?
Well, in the same case as the app, nothing we do in debate passes material plans. We have said the reading of the 1EC was unethical, forwarded a model of settler governance and futurity that genocides Native people. You should refuse that if we win that claim.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm a little bit confused. Can you explain why anything you've read on case is a link to something other than the status quo?
It's arguments why the plan doesn't solve. We agree it's links to the quo. The alt provides uniqueness.
Okay, so what does decolonization look like?
Abolition of settler nation states.
But you don't feel that nation states cease to exist? Because you just said
what does that mean?
you just said you critique fiat. So then what do you do? So you what do you do? What is how this? What is
epistemic orientations? We think that the
what does reading this affirmative
towards decol.
Okay, but what does reading this affirmative in this round do to make the United States federal government disappear?
I don't know. It doesn't do anything.
No, the negative. Sorry.
Again, the app was racist. You should refuse that in favor of decolonization. Decolonization is both material and epistemic. We think that in terms of debate, we should refuse settler futurity and ideology because A, we've made arguments as to why that gets internalized to justify native genocide outside of debate, and 2, we have said that it is the only ethical option if we win our claims of ontology.
Alright, so it relies on you winning ontology. That makes sense.
We will.
Can you explain why imperialism is the same thing as settler colonialism?
They're not.
Okay, so then what's the connection between you just said settler colonialism exported globally.
Yeah. Tuck and Yang say that there's a difference between external and internal colonialism in the sense that colonialism can be exported outside in the form of interventions in other areas like Iraq, Syria, etc. But settler colonialism is a distinct phenomenon that involves both internal colonialism, i.e. the assimilation of indigenous people, the elimination of their cultures, boarding schools, etc., in addition to external colonialism.
So,
our argument is that settler colonialism is the foundation of both of those things. So the only reason we intervene is because the settler state exists.
Okay, can you explain to me why settler colonialism is the root cause of intervention in Rwanda specifically?
Because the U.S. seeks to expand its settler legitimacy and authority abroad.
Okay, so I'm just confused then, because then it seems to be saying that imperialism is an outgrowth of settler colonialism.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then how can settler colonialism explain our relationship with Iran? We haven't tried to settle them.
Yeah, that's our argument. Settler colonialism is not solely settlement. It involves other things like intervention in other areas, which is the first thing I said. There's multiple facets of settler
where have you
colonialism.
read it?
Interventions
Where does
in
your,
Iraq is one
I
of them.
think your, what's your alt card?
Tuck and Yang? What do you mean?
Where does Tuck and Yang say that it's possible to get rid of the state through an ethic of incommensurability?
An ethic of incommensurability requires a rejection of settler futurity. Tuck and Yang say that any decolonial politics requires one.
I know, but where does it say that will actually get rid of the state?
That's like what decolonization means. It's an abolition of the nation state.
Okay. I'll take running prep starting now. Status of the K.
Unconditional.
Cool. And prep, I should have 202 left. I'll send out the doc. Order is case, top down, then K. It should be sent, by the way. Let me know when y'all are good.
When you say top down, does that mean framing or advantage first?
Oh, framing first. But the framing that was put on case, not like way case stuff. It's going great.
Security limits agrees path many all contextual regional war overturns guarantees great power conflict with Russia and China that kills cooperation, makes a laundry list of exceptions like nuclear war and climate change inevitable on frame the top level framing arguments that conceded every single one of our specific affirmative scenarios, which means you should heavily affirmative on framework proper, no extinction outweighs its irreversible, it's infinite magnitude, constitutes mass genocide, and assertion that no indigenous person values her life is paternalistic and patently false. That was our Patterson 03 guard, which goes straight up dropped. Our having both a structural violence impact and big six scenarios proves that there doesn't have to be a trade-off there. Their Mitchell card, no, you should prefer the specificity of our scenarios over the genericness of their indices. They're just saying that in general the logic that the extinction scenarios that are used to justify it aren't true, but in our scenario it is true because it's proven by the specificity or evidence on the double bind stuff. No, I'll answer fiat here. It's good and necessary. Cooper 2020. What values are in research activities of radical proposals were on the table? Mock law reform taking a proposal on the table, attacking aims of were an intervention in the present rather than the future. For insights attention to remain focused on the merits rather than challenging realization, stability, and character needs to be explicit without suggesting solely politics, worth presuming future remains important when transversing amount of rate favoring institutions innovates paper experimental politics. Cut the card of politics on the future. It is subtle. Just proof ontology which answers on their case. One is that we only free up troops, not redeploying them to South China Sea. It just means that we have strategic leverage so we can move, and so we're not seen as overly aggressive, but we know that they'll know we'll be able to respond in types of crisis. Second, these are all links to the status quo. Current presence is bad, which we both agree with. I'll talk to do the three is that we don't fear Iran. We say that they're rational and they're responding rationally to U.S. aggression on great power war stuff. One is no root cause playing. The genes already out the product also frame solvency to approximating cast, which means causes case outweighs on time frame. Second is it never says great power. There's no mention of Russia, China anywhere in here. The logic of saving allies stuff it's super stupid. The whole point is that we should stop giving them the bombs to bomb Palestinians. Robinson card doesn't give all causes. That was our first error card. It says the only reason that they would want to do it is because of U.S. aggression, which we saw. The Latin Hall card says that the U.S. is not. We make it so they Israel doesn't feel like it can go out and be aggressive because they know that they won't have us behind them. The miscalc stuff is super bad. They haven't read. It's a link term which proves that the plan is good. The overstretched stuff is also very bad. Afghanistan was just one instance. It's not a complete withdrawal like the affirmative. We do make a root cause claim. The Kali card does say it's unsustainable. It's not the Kali card. It's the Kupching card that says it's unsustainable. No PMC fill-in. One is that one unique. That was our own evidence. Second is contractors are presence. They got fiat some way. Don't know 6. Contractors are part of our military presence. Second. One, the role balance German side, I believe that entail self-serving arbitrary race when I see ensure we can't catch up, sci-fi infinite unpredictable interest, restoring fairness and class by the applicants competitive all days, catharsis is there's no argument free for all means going for fairly material pressures in place, B's, reps first and often, for planets that got ideas and the reps advocating a viable C's, inclusion, diverse argument, and informs requires institutional mechanisms, facilitate dialogue, that's the topic, Bourbon 2013. We create space for productive interaction by developing procedural mechanisms, institutional practice that aim to manage without eliminating rules and such mechanisms in media conflict by reconciling community norms, all the people, and we may never reach agreement on everything, but at least I create procedural mechanisms that take leader rules seriously, process for managing rules, procedure for spaces of opportunity for contestation, cut the card off, contestation, and second is no root cause weighing. That was about 3 particular like the performance enough to shield the link or never have to stop the blurs. Like they also fail to local lines to the state or keep or effective anti-colonial protest was answers ontology war. Nice, cut 2016. Indigenous people are constituent in politics, court decision, international agreements, and large sovereignty, long-standing alliances with progressive politics. Key needed people work with officials who advance civil act with saw to mining cause of explaining secrets that in Arizona politicians are humble when they change policies. We can should not settle for symbolic victories. Remains undermined the imperial nation state. Fourth link turn A. The what is the critique of U.S. spaces precursor to the all deterrence. They can the reps and plan focus level is R 2020. Moving against U.S. spaces crucial against U.S. dominance, being a little international one doesn't be like Frankenstein, bunch of war and ethos, terror ethos. The whole world is considered U.S. battlefield. Vegas is foundation of the bloody empire. Role basis in southern supports larger untold displacement, environmental destruction, loss of sovereignty. Cut the card of sovereignty. And B is not only a rep challenges culture, xenophobia, militarism, Middle East race, racism, fear in the home front. That's why it's important. Way the case, debating policies, key to changing military, it's a competitive technology. Skip the next stuff and 5s are all or nothing framework reifies the power of set the closer shuts down all solvency, which means that the alt can't solve and that the framework endures bad. Budget 2018. The structural paradigm holds it down that the social political transformation to which colonization aspires working tendency where only solutions equal renders impossible there. Ontological set the with inherently dies the desire to elimination native can only ever push back. It does not offer the hope of vision of liberated future. Ontology rates the contingency and agencies put down policy to totalizing logic not only disallows power republics and strategic alliances becomes resistant. That's why QS is the going email line structure only from a state of physics of opposition, not decolonization.
I'll start that.
Any cards? I'm good.
Okay, framing or advantage?
Framing. Nadia here.
Oh no. No, she's not. Think away. Where's your shirt from?
Target.
Solid.
Yeah.
The horse is cool. How are you gonna? Oh no, I meant the trophy, not your shirt.
Oh yeah. Mine got broken. But yeah.
Oh, that's not yours?
No, this is the quarters trophy.
Oh, I can't read that far.
Yeah.
Mm.
My horse broke off the actual trophy, so it's tough.
Already?
Yeah.
It's been like an hour.
Yeah, Nate tried to pick it up and
Mm. When's Harker over for school?
early May, like 2 weeks in May.
Early May?
Yeah, like
Whoa.
May 10th.
Wow. I thought Marlborough ended the earliest of anybody I know. But
When-
never
when does
mind.
Marlborough?
Take it back.
I'm right? 10th. You don't know, okay. I'm gonna forget everything.
Does anyone have Nadia's contact info?
Simha requested that Nadia receive a phone call.
Is everyone good?
Order.
K, framing, case.
You mean the framing page on the
Yeah.
case?
Yeah. They have dropped with the year of ontology, settler clones, operates not solely through the theft of land, but through the ideological naturalization of settler futures, which carry themselves through the elimination of native women who must be murdered and have their civil style extracted from them because they signify the possibility of native futures. You should understand every argument about framework case ways and link turns as investments into linear settler futurity created around the projection of American power domestically and abroad through distributed basing. That logic is not neutral, but seeks to extend a settler claim to legitimacy and futurity, which causes the genocide and extinction of native people. That impact outweighs the They have dropped our extinction impact. Settler colonialism requires a view of land as an object to use or possess in favor of settler interest, which is the foundation of industrialization, endless climate change, ecological destruction, and extinction. Dropped one and C. Mitchell. No game on it in the 1 year. Absent decolonization, humanity will cease to exist because settler colonialism is unsustainable. That means framework is relevant. We have an extinction impact, so the 2 year case always is not viable. The role of the ballot, hold them to the text of their interp. They said weigh the plan, which is that any critiques of representational discourse are not allowed under their interpretation. Our current interpretation is that you should evaluate the 1 as an object of research. That means we get links to their justifications prior to evaluating the consequences of the plan. The catharsis DA, they've dropped our performance DA. The only judge instruction in this debate was from the 1 and T. You are educators, not policymakers. Your ballot does not resolve presence in WANA, but can rectify racist logic within debate. That actively gets influenced in the context of the plan. They have dropped our serial policy DA, the way that they justify the plan gets internalized in the minds of debaters, and in the way that the plan manifests in the real world, which means that every link we went to the discourse comes on a higher level. The catharsis DA is also pathologizing. They've dropped the first and second arguments in the 1 and C. The discourse affects the consequence of the plan because the way they understand posture gets internalized. The next argument about the plan being equal to the representations is wrong. Fiat is illusory was also dropped. The only impact your ballot has is rectifying ethical injustice. The next argument about inclusion, this card's idea of quote institutional mechanisms is unethical. It is a decision rule. We have said that nothing else spills out of this round, and the only effect that we have are the way that we justify the plan, which means that comes on a prior level. Now they say no root cause. They have dropped the warrant. No root cause is not a complete argument. Saying that we should prefer proximate has not responded to our thesis claim. Our evidence says that the desire to exert settler authority abroad is foundational of all violence. The 1 and C live strip evidence says that non-Western states are viewed as outside of the category of the human to justify intervention from the West. This is the logic of settler intervention empirically in Iraq, Syria, etc. The U.S. seeks to extend its claim to settler legitimacy because they fear the existential threat to settler futurity. That is our argument. The desire for settler futurity is the reason why states intervene in order to protect that settler future, in order to protect their own existence. They've also dropped the Cornelius and Griffiths evidence. The U.S. source is the foundational architect of violence. All violence comes back to the U.S. as its existence as a settler state. Other settler states seek to emulate the United States in their foundation, which means that is the foundation of violence with China, Russia, etc. But also non-Western states seek to expand themselves into a U.S. Western order, which is why all of their links to alliances, etc. still apply. All of our links still apply to that. Now the link turn, you should not view these link turns in a vacuum. They're assuming that they did just read an app entirely about American posture and how we need to make American military more flexible and able to deter adversaries. This is our link argument. They have dropped our Sing evidence. The logic of preserving American flexibility, deterrence, defense, etc. is all wedded to an American culture of imperialism that seeks to preserve American posture. They have dropped every single line that we read from 1 evidence, which says that this is inseparable from the way that they justify the plan. Even if the plan might reduce bases, the alternative does that too. Decolonization requires an abolition of the United Nations state, which requires an abolition of the military-industrial complex. Our argument is that the logic of the 1 the way that they have justified that reduction, the way that the reduction manifests, the way that happens through the state, and the way that would fail is only resolved by the alternative, which means that none of these are options for them because we agree bases are imperial, but the only way to solve that is by rejecting settler futurity in the first place. The xenophobia argument, they didn't read this card in the 1 This is also not an argument because even if the culture of xenophobia is bad, that's not the same as natives or about how they prevent genocide. The bus now all to the noise cat arguments here. 1, this is about indigenous activism. It's not the same as the app. Even if they win, the indigenous activism might be good in other instances. The app is certainly not the opposite of this because every link we win proves that the app seeks to extend a claim to settler military posture. Second, our argument is not that indigenous activism is bad, but that the way that the app understands what is legitimate indigenous activism, etc., gets manifested into arguments. If we win our thesis of ontology, then the settler state can only exist through the elimination of native people, which is a claim that they have not contested because noise cat just assumes that political activism can be good. Our argument is that the only reason that indigenous people engage with the state is because there's no other, because they see that there is no other alternative, which is exactly what their framing of decolonization is an impossibility, is exactly what forecloses its possibility in the first place because it constantly defers the possibility of engaging with indigenous governance and life independently. This also applies to the Busbridge evidence. All of these just say fatalism is bad. The alternative is not fatalism. It is a material, real project of decolonization that returns indigenous land and sovereignty to native people. They did not make a DA to decol. They did not say it doesn't solve the case, which is that all of this will be new in the 2 era, and they dropped we have an extinction impasse, so they can't even go for extinction waste, which also was not an argument in the 1 era. Now, the framing debate, they functionally dropped the warrant in our futurity DA. If we win ontology, the settler state can only exist through the genocide and extinction of native people. Our argument is that in order for the settler state to colonize land and to exist, it must eliminate the prior inhabitants of that land. That means in order for the state to exist and to rescue a claim to settler futurity, it must eliminate discriminate Native women because they signify the possibility of Native futures. That means that they only recognize extinction when framed in the context of white settlers, because our argument is that settler futurity makes extinction of natives inevitable, which is why you should not evaluate any of the arguments in a vacuum, and you should prioritize indigenous death in your ballot, because that is an active epistemic bias. The next argument about how Patterson was dropped, it is not dropped. They have dropped that the genocide requires unending structural violence, etc., which turns the entirely case. We also have an extinction bias, so I'm not sure why this is relevant. Mitchell, we didn't read it. The double bind about why fiat is good. One, this does not assume any of the app, even if fiat is good in a vacuum. The way that they justify the plan certainly must be held prior to its consequences. Two, this assumes that they have answered every other argument that we made. They have not. They have dropped that in the context of a debate round specifically. Nothing we advocate for spills over, which is that fiating or imagining the policy does not cause it to pass, which is that the only thing that your ballot can do is ethically rectify it. Now, the case, they do not solve anything. They do not solve anything. PMC zeroes the case. Their response was the one-line card saying that PMCs are not presence. That is not a warrant. They have dropped the Lehman evidence. Says the presence is distinct from private military contractors. Presence are owned by the United States military. PMCs are hired and then go and do their own thing. That is not the same thing. That ruins all negative ground in DAs, which means that we can't generate links. PMCs zeroes the case. It means that the U.S. will continue to be overstretched because we will continue funding presence in the Middle East, which means that we will not be able to deter China, Russia, etc. It also means that Iranian aggression and backlash is inevitable because the U.S. would still be viewed as having a presence, even though it's not for the military. This was not a response. They did not actually respond to the three cards we got on PMC's shift. They've also dropped that PMCs have an incentive to escalate to preserve demand. They have dropped so-called causes of extinction. I do not care if they win framework. You are not ending my career when they have dropped a root cause argument. That means that the alternative solves the entirety of the case and a risk of a link is sufficient to turn it.
Cool. I should have 202 left. Starting now. Order is case, advantage, framing, then the K.
Is the order on case just the advantage first? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, sorry, it's framing then advantage.
Yeah.
Everyone good?
Current water presence beats escalator security limits and creates passive enemies locked to international regional war. Overstretch guarantees great power conflict with Western China that kills cooperation, makes a laundry list of exercises like nuclear war and climate change inevitable. I'm not going for extinction at ways per se, but I am going for it as a tiebreaker, which means if you think that it's a wash on the link level or both winning with some link turn, you should use extinction as a way to break the tie. They have not responded to our time frame argument on the root cause debate that even if they're right, this U.S. settler colonialism is the root cause of all this violence, or is why Russia and China are trying to emulate us, that it's already out of the bottle. Nobody will believe since the U.S. has been settler colonial for so long that we're actually going to be decolonizing completely, or that we've actually gone back on total neutrality of our ways, or at least very much though is all the progress has been already done. They're already trying to emulate us and trying to create their own settler empires, which means that the app is the only thing that can solve in time frame because their alt can't solve. PMC stuff. One, they dropped two answers here. First is that it's non-unique. All of their evidence proves that PMCs are the status quo. You can go back and read it. Second is that you should refer our Dino 6 card, which proves that we failed away to go contractors because only our card defines what military presence is. No one NC card that's mentioned the word military presence. Contractors provide a vital part of our military presence. Three is at the very least this doesn't zero the risk of the case, but just decreases it. Not terminal defense. Framework on the K. On framework, I'm extending that the role of the balance determines ability of the plan. Anything I've been conceded on my clash warrants and anything else is self-serving and arbitrary way to waste want to see ensure we can't just stop justifying infinite output interest in destroying fairness and clash. All their answers to this were super bad if we are because all of their it turns all of their impact, which is all about getting the best sort of decolonial education, but we're not able to leverage the 1AC, which is our best piece of offense, and it's impossible for us to engage in the sort of decolonial education they think is possible. Their first answer to this is that any critiques of reps is not allowed according to our interp. I disagree with them. That is not what our interp says. It just says you have to weigh it against a competitive alternative. That means that you can weigh the links against the link turns, which solves all of their offense because it means that we get the sort of critiques of our representation that they think is important, all of their answers, which solves all their arguments about performance being about the performance stuff, which means I'll have to answer the fiat stuff. Too bad they dropped all the warrants in Cooper. Fiating the app is an act of radical prefiguration that undermines hegemonic notions of the possible and lays out a blueprint for a transformed future. Demanding the plan now revitalize movements by underlining the urgent need for change. Their only answer to this is that fiat is a loser rate, but if their subject formation or arguments are right, then the things that we do in this round can influence the way we think about it. So fiat is a valuable way for thinking about change and it can't actually do anything, which means that you don't need to win framework. Fiat is why our reps are good. Weigh the cases happen to the revolutionary potential of radical prefiguration. Ontology debate. They massively mishandled the noise cat card, which answers the ontology, and I flagged it as such during the 1AR. It gives specific examples of the state doing things like not choosing to expand in order to prioritize indigenous sacred sites, such as the Seiko Flag Act, and other specific examples of the state not being ontologically bad or settler colonial, which proves that it does not expand at all costs. Our first answer is that indigenous activism is not the app, but that's why I'm extending the Lazare 2020 card, which clearly proves that indigenous activism is the affirmative. We both agree that military bases are bad for indigenous people because it takes land that was otherwise used and is otherwise used for indigenous sacred sites and creates a world that is a U.S. battlefield, which clearly proves that we are good for indigenous people. Third is that it's not. Third is that they don't let them go for a floating pig when they said they don't feel the plan, which means they can't solve any of case.
Good debate.
Good debate.